Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to It's Evil. I'm Meosha, your host. This radio series tells genuine crime stories involving real individuals. Simply things that we cannot explain. I usually say the creepiest crimes happen in small towns. Who knows, maybe it's because there's so many hidden secrets. In this season, we have 10 real terrifying episodes. Before we begin, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Core Culture, your go-to source for newest horror movies, thrillers, sci-fi, and more, and my production company, M.V.B Films Productions, for making this episode possible. Welcome to It's Evil, Real Atlanta Cases. A woman facing trial for murder after two of her children were found dead with their heads trapped in an oven was expected to appear in court Friday for a final plea hearing. But instead, her attorney worked out an arrangement to postpone the hearing until he can interview one of his client's surviving children, public defender Arnold M. Ragus told Atlanta News, first, his client has not decided yet whether she wants to take a plea deal. She wants to first weigh all options, he said, including hearing what her surviving 8-year-old son might say if he were to take the stand at trial. The murder case 5.5 years ago stunned Metro Atlanta. On October 13, 2017, Williams, who was 24 at the time, called 911 and said she came home from work and found two of her 4 children dead.
2 of my kids are dead. What do I gotta do? They dead. She left them dead in the house by themselves.
Okay, ma'am. Where are you now?
I'm in my house. She left my door open. My baby boy, my oldest baby boy, is the only one that's here. Only one that's alive. She left them in the house by themselves. She left them in here.
She claimed she had left her children in the care of her cousin, but said the cousin had left. Inside the apartment on Howell Place in Atlanta's West End neighborhood, officers found the bodies of a 1-year-old boy and a 2-year-old boy. Their heads were trapped in tipped-over oven. William's 6-year-old daughter was at a different location that day with relatives, police said. Her 3-year-old son was in the home at the time. He was unharmed. Police said they soon determined that Williams concocted the story about leaving her children with her cousin. They arrested her and charged her with murder. According to reports, an autopsy later showed the boys had been burned, but the medical examiner couldn't determine a cause of death. Investigators couldn't rule out that the boys had been strangled before being placed in the oven. A few days after the boys died, Williams' mother told Atlanta News first reporter Adam Murphy that she had reported her daughter to the Georgia Department of Family and Children's Services trying to get social workers to remove her grandchildren. I did tell DFCs everything because I either wanted them to give me the kids or get the kids out of her possession because at one time I thought she was just going nuts. In an interview a few days after the murders, Brenda Williams said her daughter had mental issues that started at an early age. She was a slow learner, she said. I had to pull her out of school and do homeschool. She would do little simple things like cut her doll's heads off. Her daughter's mental problems, she said, seemed to worsen after her children's father left. I told him, something tragic is going to happen. She's going to do something to those kids. She's going to do something to herself, said Brenda Williams. You know, we see stuff like this in horror movies, but in my family, my 2 littlest grandkids are gone because of what my daughter did. Story number 2. Atlanta News first. Officials have identified the woman gunned down while riding in the backseat of a rideshare as 31-year-old Taisha Bruley. According to investigators, Bruley was riding in the back of a black Cadillac SUV when someone shot into the vehicle. In the 911 call, a man is heard repeatedly saying somebody shot in my car.
We are learning more about an Uber passenger shot and killed in Buckhead, and police are telling 11 Alive that they believe that woman was actually targeted and her killer is still on the loose. 11 Alive Bo Beth Yates is live close to where it took place on Lindbergh. So Bo Beth, what's the latest?
According to Atlanta Police Department, officers arrived on scene to find a person shot and a black Escalade being used as an Uber. We're told the passenger who was in the back of that vehicle was struck multiple times after a car drove up next to it and began firing into the vehicle.
This appears to be a targeted incident. As you can see the number of shell casings, there were multiple shooters. But again, we just don't have a whole lot to give out right now.
More than one vehicle was involved, and one is described as possibly a light-colored sedan. Police say they're working to determine whether this shooting is connected to another shooting nearby at Ford Highway, Lenox Road. An Uber spokesperson released a statement. "We are horrified by the news of this chilling attack. We have been in touch with the driver to check on his well-being, and our thoughts are with the victim's family during this heartbreaking time. We are standing by to assist police with their investigation." Story number 3. The pursuit of clues in a model's 2016 shooting death has yielded an arrest exactly 2 years to the day that her naked, bullet-riddled body turned up in an Atlanta park. Police say the man who police allege killed 19-year-old Bridget Shield already is serving a life sentence in prison for one of 5 killings to which he's been connected, authorities said in a news conference announcing the arrest on Thursday. Yet without knowing the suspected killer's motive, a relative of the victim said the warrant issued for Christopher Spencer, 28, still leaves them searching for answers. So far it hasn't helped.
Bridget's car is located in the 4900 block of Redan Road. We, of course, processed the vehicle. We processed the area around that for any evidence. And when we did that, we found a dress that was some distance away from the vehicle near a fence. And a Sprite bottle is on the other side of the fence, which was noted by the investigators and collected as well and would become important later. So they collect that Sprite bottle at that time. And as the investigation goes on, they're able to put 2 and 2 together about how all of this transpires. And essentially what occurs is there was some forensic evidence that was recovered from Mrs. Shield by the medical examiner's office that was submitted for DNA testing. That evidence would later, more than a year later, come back and identify a suspect for us named Christopher Spencer. Christopher Spencer was identified because he had been charged and convicted of a double homicide in DeKalb County and had entered the Department of Corrections at the Macon State Prison. When you do that, you have to provide a DNA sample to the state, and when that sample hit the CODIS database, it came back to us that that was consistent with what was found in Mrs. Shield. And then it was also consistent with some DNA that was recovered from the Sprite bottle that had been purchased at the convenience store the last time that we knew her to be seen on camera as being alive or by a witness as being alive. So all of that would match together.
Shield's grandmother, Beverly Toole, said at the news conference, "Maybe if we find out how he got her, it could be a chance encounter. We just don't know." Asked if Shield and her alleged assailant knew each other, Atlanta Police Major Michael O'Connor told the media, "I don't believe so, but I don't know that definitely." Georgia Department of Corrections. The car was seen later that night in the vicinity of Oakland Park, where a 911 caller also later reported hearing shots fired. Police searched the park and discovered Shield's body about 6:50 a.m. the next morning. Her vehicle was recovered the next day. 2016, Spencer and another man, Vernon Beeman, abducted, robbed, bound and then shot to death a Stone Mountain couple, police said. The 2 were arrested and convicted, and Spencer's DNA was entered into a state-maintained database. That DNA later produced a match with DNA found on Shield, and also with DNA on the soda bottle. What a tragic end. This young woman with a bright future ahead. Life taken away too soon at the tender age of 19. Story number 4. A model from Atlanta takes a trip to LA. While driving back to Las Vegas, his rental car breaks down in Death Valley. Highway patrol spots him and brings him to a gas station. While waiting for his friend, he vanishes. Local model Ryan Singleton's death remains a mystery. What happened to Ryan? It was in the dead heat of summer, July 2013. Ryan Singleton, a model from Atlanta, flew to Los Angeles for a weekend trip, but never made it home. While waiting for his friend from Los Angeles to pick him up, he vanished. His body was found 74 days later, nearly 2 miles away from the gas station. Rising star. I'm glad that he did go. He took the courage and he went. He was brave. Ryan was never afraid to try anything. He was never afraid. Most things he tried, he mastered. Iris remembers her son's journey to stardom. At 21 years old, Ryan left his mother's home in Georgia for New York City to pursue his dream of becoming a model. With her son being miles away for the first time, she was as nervous as any parent would be. Iris followed her son on social media to keep up with his latest ventures. She remembers the day she felt all his hard work wasn't in vain.
Somewhere between third and fourth grade, he figured out that his initials of his name, RTS, backward was STR, which meant star. So he started then making himself into a star.
In the fall of 2010, Ryan left Atlanta to pursue his dreams of modeling in New York.
He landed 7 shows during Mercedes Week in New York, and that's huge.
After success in New York, Ryan and his 2 friends, Antonio Faison and Jared Davis, set their sights on Hollywood. Their adventure was all caught on camera as they filmed their pursuit of fame for a docuseries called Are We Famous Yet?
The inspiration for our docuseries was simple. It was Ryan. We wanted to document his journey and becoming a model.
Once they hit LA, things happened quickly.
We were basically in the inner circle. We were being invited to things that we kind of just saw on television and were like, okay, now we're here.
He landed a spot on the runway during New York's Fashion Week. Of course, I'm at home worrying, but eventually I saw it on Facebook where he was walking down the runway Fashion Week with a pair of gold shorts on. I'm like, all right, he is doing what he wants to do, she said. Ryan's modeling career. Soon Ryan set his eyes on Hollywood. He aspired to become an actor and pursue film production. He and a group of friends packed their belongings in a U-Haul truck and left New York for Los Angeles. They documented their cross-country journey. A lot of things that happened on that trip, he recorded it. A lot of his production team members have a lot of their lives together recorded. So soon people will be able to see that, Iris said. Ryan eventually decided to leave his production team in Los Angeles and head back to New York. He married celebrity stylist Kytha Brewster. Flowers found out about her son's nuptials on Facebook. I find out on social media Ryan has gotten married to a man twice his age. I don't even know who this is. I don't even have a clue as to what's going on. It was a total shock, she said. Just 4 months later, Ryan and Kytha separated. Ryan moved back in with his mother in Georgia, who sensed something was wrong. Iris remembered a conversation she had with her son. Something bad is going to happen to me, isn't it? Ryan asked his mother. Ryan, what are you talking about? She responded. Iris asked her son if he owed someone money, and he said no. I've done a lot of things to hurt a lot of people, Ryan replied. Iris said she never found out exactly what Ryan was talking about. I don't know if he felt some kind of way because he left. He knew he hurt me by disappearing and not communicating with me outside of that. I couldn't figure out who it could be. 2 days later, Ryan abruptly left for Los Angeles again. This was the last time Iris saw her son alive. Ryan calls his mother in the morning, asking her to send him $100 via Western Union into Nevada. July 9, 2013. Mom receives call from Kytha, Ryan's estranged husband. Mother tells Kytha that Ryan is on the West Coast. Kytha tells Mother that Ryan called him and it seemed he had been drinking. Kytha tells Iris that Ryan's life could be in danger. July 9, 2013. Mother speaks with Barstow Company detective, who told her Ryan was seen walking down the highway at 2 p.m. by K Highway Patrol. Ryan tells deputies his car broke down. Deputies took Ryan to look for the car but couldn't locate it. Deputies took Ryan to the closest town, Baker, where they dropped him off at a convenience store. Deputies said Ryan made a purchase, walks out of store, and vanishes. July 10, 2013. Ryan's car is found in Barstow County, a few miles north of where deputies and Ryan initially searched for the car. July 11, 2013. The case was assigned to another detective who informed the Iris that her son was receiving money from multiple people. Sept. 21, 2013. Ryan's body is found by 2 joggers hikers, with organs missing about 2 miles from the convenience store where he was last seen. This is within the 5 miles radius that authorities intensively searched. The autopsy report lists the cause and manner of death as undetermined. Were Ryan's organs sold on the black market? The truth, the answers, the justice, the accountability of what happened to my child, really, I said. Iris said she hasn't been able to afford an attorney. Ryan Singleton's case remains an open death investigation in the state of California.
So since the story first aired last night on 11 Alive at 11, there has been an overwhelming reaction on social media for more. Then he went through the autopsy report, the evidence, and the pictures from the scene with his investigators, Joseph Scott Morgan and Charles Middlestad. Together, they analyzed the case to figure out how it can be solved.
Let's bottom line it now. Let's bottom line it. I mean, it's undetermined now. Do you believe that this thing can be solved, that there can be an answer for Ryan's mom from investigators in this case as to what happened to her son?
From the scientific standpoint, I think that we've gone as far as the road can take us at this point. They have examined the remains. Not only has a forensic pathologist examined the remains, but also a forensic anthropologist has examined the remains. There was no sign of trauma. The only thing that they note as real trauma to Ryan's remains is a skull fracture. But both the forensic pathologist and the forensic anthropologist both state clearly that this is probably a post-mortem event. That means after death, and that's as a result of the drying or desiccation that takes place in the bone. Bones became brittle. We're left high and dry. So I'd have to defer to good old-fashioned shoe leather as far as the cops are concerned with this.
What a sad story, a man with big dreams that meets a tragic end. What do you think happened to Ryan Singleton? Good night.